Narcissists. Left-wing extremism. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. As you know, I'm a narcissistic psychopath. As a consequence of my insight, the level to which I have evolved, understanding myself and those of my kind, I have been able to explain to you how narcissists pop up in so many different areas of life. Commonly, in romantic situations, familial ones, social ones, work, neighbour, and sometimes just in an interaction where you might go and purchase something in a store. Where your government leader is a narcissist and impacts upon you because of their views and the power that they wield. Narcissists pop up everywhere, and they're far more numerous than people actually realise. Narcissists appear in sport, on screen, in films, in politics. They may be building your house, they may be knocking your house down. They're behind certain institutions, they're behind certain mindsets and trends. You find them in the arts, in relation to painting, literature, screenplays, sculpture. Narcissists appear in lots of different arenas. Some are more obvious than others. Some are honeypots that attract more narcissists than others. Many narcissists, of course, appear with regard to politics and political ideologies, because politics is a means of getting the hands upon the reins of power, and power is a means of assertion of control, drawing fuel, etc., and therefore is particularly important to a narcissist. It's also important to a psychopath because access to power allows the achievement of certain aims, that it fulfills the hyperfocus of the psychopath. The absence of fear and remorse of the psychopath is often played out in the actions on a large and international scale. It also means that the psychopath is able to alleviate the boredom. But as I've explained to you before, you'll find psychopaths and narcissists on the right, in the centre, and on the left. But an interesting study has arisen and is reported on by Alex Mitchell in the New York Post, which tells us left-wing extremism linked to psychopathy and narcissism. Is this the case, that more psychopathy and narcissism is to be found amongst those that are of left-wing and of left-wing extremists compared to, say, the right? Let's find out. Left-wing extremism is linked to toxic psychopathic tendencies and narcissism, according to a new study published to the peer-reviewed journal Current Psychology. Based on existing research, we expected individuals with higher levels of left-wing authoritarianism to also report higher levels of narcissism, the authors wrote. A result of the new data, study authors Anne Crispence and Alex Bertrams have coined a new term for such psychological behaviour, the dark ego vehicle principle. What actually exists is the presence of the facade. That a left-wing extremist holds themselves out as being kind, of being for social justice, for being empathic, and utilises that as the excuse for behaving in a way which is actually often antisocial, lacking empathy, destroying property, affecting people's businesses, cancelling people, attacking them physically, promoting riots. According to this principle, individuals with dark personalities, such as high narcissistic and psychopathic traits, are attracted to certain forms of political and social activism, which they can use as a vehicle to satisfy their own ego-focused needs, instead of actually aiming at social justice and equality, they told PsyPost. This is something that I've pointed out to you in the past with regard to the voice of those minorities, namely those narcissists, that hijack causes which they believe in, but actually they don't realise that what they're doing is hijacking that cause for the purpose of asserting control over people, drawing fuel from them, gaining character traits and residual benefits. They think that they're involved in achieving social justice. They think they're involved in achieving equality, which are left-wing ideals. But actually they're not. Their narcissism causes them to hijack those causes. Harry's wife is an obvious example of someone. She doesn't engage in left-wing extremism, far from it. But she hijacks causes, bandwagons, in order to make it look like she's trying to achieve social justice, when actually all she's achieving is control, fuel, character traits, and residual benefits. It is an appearance of achieving social justice and equity that is being utilized by the narcissism. In particular, certain forms of activism might provide them with opportunities for positive self-presentation, facade management, and displays of moral superiority, haughtiness, assertion of control, to gain social status, residual benefit, to dominate others, assertion of control, and to engage in social conflicts and aggression to satisfy their need for thrill-seeking. That's more linked to psychopaths. The study on left-wing authoritarianism also showed that many times they do not practice what they so loudly preach, something that I pointed out to you before with the rampant hypocrisy of those individuals who preach #BeKind but are anything but. Examples of the sugars who criticise people for the very behaviours that they then go and engage in themselves. Social justice is often used as a guise for these activists to behave unhinged, the research noted. An individual high in left-wing activism might declare anyone to be old-fashioned who is opposing their own progressive values, sense of judgment, haughtiness, assertion of control, strive to suppress free speech to regulate the expression of right-wing beliefs in educational institutions, and even endorse the use of violence to reach their own political goals, the authors said. Beyond using any means necessary, people of privileged backgrounds who are aligned with left-wing activism often use their narcissism to make activism solely about themselves, instead of achieving social equality for struggling groups. Minority groups should be made aware of the narcissistic enemies from within their activist movement, as these individuals could hijack the cause, thereby reducing the success of the activism in many ways, the authors added, something which I have repeatedly told you about. Certain narcissists typically desire fame, distinction, elevated social status, and high social importance. They can be assumed to strive for influential positions that involve social visibility and outreach, as well as access to financial and other resources. The authors also made it clear, as I have, that authoritarianism exists on both sides of the political spectrum, and that there is a wide range of literature and research in the field of right-wing authoritarianism. However, research on authoritarianism observed in individuals who are supportive of left-wing political ideologies are still rare. This study, which appears in Current Psychology, is something that I will undoubtedly be looking at further, but I wanted to bring to your attention the New York Post notification of this to highlight something that I've been telling you for some time, that there are many, many narcissists that are involved in left-wing activism who think that they're a decent person, who think that they're on the side of right, who think that what they're doing is appropriate, but actually they're just doing it because their narcissism deems that it's something that they can hijack for the purpose of achieving the prime aims. The unaware narcissist doesn't know this, and many people affected by these behaviours don't realise it, particularly certain individuals that might follow a particular cause or movement who is completely unaware that it has been hijacked by one or more narcissists that take it in a particularly violent direction. That those individuals who at first supported the organisation or the movement because they saw that it was right and proper, find that it just becomes a vehicle for narcissists to make themselves look good in terms of asserting control, drawing fuel, obtaining character traits and residual benefits. This is something that I've pointed out repeatedly with regard to those that are hijacking the trans movement, those that have hijacked instances with regard to what might be regarded as wokeism, those that exhibited those intolerant behaviours with regard to the censorship of publications. Time and time again, I have warned you about the presence of narcissists with regard to left-wing activism, and here is a study which bears out precisely the warnings that I have been giving you. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.